Hey, what's going on, guys? Khaled here, the Plant Charmer. Another video, another cool trick, something I've posted on Instagram lately and you guys really enjoyed, was growing root crops in plug trays. So a little unconventional. I know a lot of you guys struggle with growing root crops, carrots, all kinds of small things like this that grow on the ground. So I figured maybe if you guys have a bit of space on your patio or on your back deck or wherever, you can use this method. So let's just go ahead and switch the camera angle. I'll show you guys the materials you need to get, and we're going to get down to business. What's up, guys? We're back. So starting materials for this project are going to be plug trays. Okay, that's going to be a 50. I know in my Instagram post I actually showed larger cells than this, but due to the COVID-19 situation, I'm unable to get larger plug trays than this. So you know what, we're going to go for the ultimate challenge. We're going to use this guy here to grow radishes in, and I've got another plug tray here which has various small types of containers I was able to gather around the house. So they're going to be similar to growing in larger cells, and we'll be able to demonstrate also growing different crops using different types of containers. So you need plug trays of some sort, or really small containers. If you have an assortment around the house, like I said, it works. If you don't, I thought about it, and you can use solo cuts like this. So they're really cool. Bonus trick is, or bonus point, sorry, is you'll be able to see the root development through, and that's pretty cool. So I found these around. I figured, you know what, we're going to use these since they're very widely available and everybody has those. So that's going to be that. So we have an assortment of containers. That's a smaller, I would say, 3-inch container. Really, really small. These are all for seedlings, by the way. You're not supposed to grow full-size crop in there, but we're going to do it anyway. So I've got a bunch of those here. I've got these even smaller things that it says 3.5-inch geranium. So 3.5-inch, that's equivalent to one of the large cells I showed you guys in my Instagram post. We're going to use those as well. And we're going to be using also, so that's it. We're going to be using these 6 little cells here. We're going to use these 3 containers which I showed you, and then we're going to use these solo cups. That's going to be our second plug tray. Now, other materials you're going to need, of course, are going to be a no drip tray. Actually, you're going to need 2 of them if you do two trays like I do. Obviously, it's going to be 1 tray per either plug tray or basically per batch of crops. So these trays, as their name implies, are no drip trays, so they do not drip. If you look at the bottom here, there are no holes. There's an exact product like this that's sold in gardening centers and gardening places that is called a drip tray, which, as opposed to this guy, is going to have drainage holes in the bottom. So the purpose of this guy is to conserve moisture. The other version with the holes, the purpose is to actually drain. So depending on what you need to do, you're going to use one or you're going to use the other. In this case, we want to conserve the water because we're going to be bottom watering and bottom feeding. That's trick number 1 when you're doing this project. If you try to water it from the top, because the cells are really, really small, you're going to lose control at some point. First, you'll be motivated, and then you'll keep watering it every day, and you'll baby it. And one day you're going to go out to the park, or you're going to be out doing something else, or you're just going to forget about it. The sun's going to bake it, and then it's going to dry. So a lot of the container growing challenges revolve around moisture and fertilizing. So of course we're going to prep our setup in order to address these 2 problems from the get-go. Now, you guys know I'm a huge fan of doing the prep work. When you do your prep work in gardening, everything else is super easy after that. It's super enjoyable. So take the time to do your work properly. I mean, I'm a professional farmer. We're pretty good at innovation. We've developed methods that grow crops super cheap. But despite all this, our prep work is always first, and this is what basically our success is based on. So once we have our plug trays, we have our plug trays, no drip trays, our containers that go in there. Fertilizer, like I just mentioned, fertilizer is usually a big issue when you're doing root crops or any crop, in small containers. It's the same mix as you guys have seen in my spring garlic video. So I'm going to use I've mixed it myself, and the larger pellets are a 5-3-2 formulation. These smaller ones are 4-6-8. Now, I got those from a supplier that does not carry only the small version of those pellets. I usually buy a couple of tons directly from the company that makes this fertilizer. I'm not going to need it this year, So, but it doesn't matter. I'll show you guys how to actually make a consistent mix using inconsistent pellets. So that's going to be the second part of this, or a second trick I'm going to give you guys in regards to this whole thing. So we're going to go ahead and make our mix. Of course, in order to make a mix, we need medium. You guys probably see this here. Let me just get it a little closer. You have a bale of Pro Mix. Now, Pro Mix is actually a mix of 15% perlite. It's going to be about 85% peat moss. It's going to have a wetting agent mixed in. As you guys, I don't know if you guys can see the label here. Just get it up. There you go. So Pro Mix BX is just the regular version with mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae is actually a fungi that colonizes the root system of plants and will facilitate the cation exchange, which means the nutrients will go through the fungi and then will feed the plant, and it's a beneficial relationship for both. So that's already integrated in there. Let's just grab a handful again. You guys know I insist a lot on medium that's high quality. Look at this, the little white beads in there are perlite. This is super fluffy, super friable. Drainage is great. Water retention is great. Your roots are going to be able to breathe in there and develop, and they will not encounter any resistance to piercing through the soil, which is what you want in root crops. A lot of people have these really cute carrots that look like they have legs, but that doesn't make the cut. So it's pretty cute, but it doesn't make the cut. Now, if you were to grow in a medium like this only for root crops on a farmer scale like I do, it would be too expensive. So you usually look for good soil. But since we're doing small amounts, we can afford the quality medium. So we're going to go ahead and grab a little small, cute little tote. Okay, got this guy just for you guys on YouTube, so you can actually have a manageable size container. I'm going to go ahead. Give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to fill this up with the mix. Normally, by the way, this is a mix we make on the farm ourselves. So we buy the perlite separately. We buy the peat moss separately. We hire out the guy with a huge tractor, and he turns the pile over with the fertilizer in it. So for simplicity's sake, we actually bought it pre-mixed this time. It's more expensive, but it's less messy also. So I didn't want my girlfriend to shoot me, so I figured, you know what, I'm going to keep the place a little bit clean at least. So let's just fill this guy up. We're going to put some fertilizer in there, and I'll be right back in 2 seconds. Hey, what's up, guys? So we're back with a little container full of Pro Mix. So we're ready to basically mix in our fertilizer in there. Now, I've matched the amount of fertilizer to the amount of medium here. So we're just going to go ahead and mix that. The amount of fertilizer you put in, by the way, is going to be used as what I like to call a base load or a base charge. So we're not going to be, obviously we're going to be feeding very regularly, but we don't want the plants to start off with nothing in the soil either. So the basic nutrition, the starting nutrition will come from this, and any further fertilizing will be leached out in some water, which will then be poured at the bottom of the no drip trays. And that's going to be our main method of feeding. But in the meanwhile that the plants start growing, when the seed actually emerges and germinates, we wanted to find food right away. So a good mix of nitrogen and potassium and phosphorus is going to be super good for a start. Now, just make sure you mix in everything thoroughly. I use chicken manure, by the way. Well, it's a base of chicken manure. You guys are going to tell me, maybe you find it disgusting, but it really is just like gravel. When you actually touch it and it's dry, or it doesn't smell, it really is gravel. To the untrained eye, it looks like gravel. So give that a good mix. Go all the way to the bottom. Again, one of the benefits of using a good quality medium is that it's easy to mix. I had somebody on Instagram the other day tell me, Khaled, you know, when you're mixing your soil, you tell us to work in the fertilizer. It looks like this soil is super loose and easy. And somebody thought I was doing that just for the content, but really this is how we work. I mean, I have a full-size farm on these principles. So of course, if you have a hard pan, or if you have clay, or you're working with a bad quality medium, every shovelful is going to be hell. Every time you touch it, every time you dig, every time you mix, it's going to be heavy, it's going to be difficult. So that's why I keep telling you guys, invest in a quality medium. So if you follow my tricks, you don't buy quality medium and you fail, and you tell me, Khaled, I failed, and I ask you what you bought, and you tell me it was some regular garden soil you got at the grocery store or at the big box store, then that's what I'm going to tell you. It didn't work because you didn't follow my instructions. So quality medium is expensive, but it's worth it. It keeps, it stays, it comes back year after year. You may lose a little bit of it, but in general, most of it will come back, just top up a little bit, and you're going to get great results every time. So we have our soil here mixed in with some fertilizer. We got nitrogen in there, we got phosphorus, we got potassium. It's a pretty light fertilizing that I did, but again, like I said, it's just to get the plant started. So once we have this, we're going to grab our little plug tray here, and we're going to put it in its no drip tray right away. So let's just put what we don't need inside. So these are, by the way, 1020 trays. They're referred to in the industry, sorry, as 1020 trays. The reason why they're called 1020 is because they're 10 by 20. The reason why that matters is because it's a standardized size. So you got all kinds of plug trays. You got 50 cells, you got 512 cells, you got 128. But the size is always standard, and it's important because sometimes we want to take this guy and fit it into this guy. See, perfect fit. So this is what guarantees to you that when you're buying things, you don't need to get a tape measuring tool with you. If they follow industry standards, this is what you're going to get every time. So once we have that in, we're just going to pour some medium in there. Now what I like to do is put a couple of large handfuls right down the middle, and I make it overflow into a little mound like this, trying to figure out how much is going to slide to the sides once I smooth it out. So let's just go ahead and continue. Experience will teach you how many handfuls you usually need. It's never perfect, so in this case, I put about 4 large handfuls. And now we're just going to go around and fill every cell. One trick when you're filling plug trays, when you go around the corners and around the edges like this, your medium is going to tend to kind of fall away. So since we pay for this and we don't want to overwork for nothing, we're going to put our little hand right there as a shield, as a barrier, and then press down a little. And as you move, if you see what I'm doing, just keep a little guard here. So keep your medium that you've paid so much money for, and at the same time, save yourself the extra work of having to make more mix when you already had enough to start with. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put the tray like this so you guys can have a better look. And you can press down a little bit, okay? I know I tell you guys not to compress or compact things, but this medium is impossible to compact by its very structure. So press down a little to make sure each cell is actually filled. And as you pass your hand over, you're going to find out that a lot of the medium actually disappears. So it's not really disappeared, it's just going down in the cells. So I've made quite a mess. Normally I would do that on the tarp, do quite a bunch of plug trays, and then we would just pick up whatever has fallen into the tarp and reuse that. Once you've done this, super important that you tap the tray 4 times. As you notice, the level of soil in some of those cells has actually went down, mostly around the edges, because we kind of smoothed down the and pressed down the center more. So we're just going to go ahead and pick up whatever fell on the table here, and we're going to go ahead and fill those little cells there. All right. So that's a tray that's ready for seeding. Okay, so it's fertilized, it's got good medium in. We got a a plug tray inside a no drip tray, which is to ensure we'll be able to keep up maintenance on this thing. So let's go ahead and grab our radish packet. And we're going to go ahead and plant this tray really quickly. Again, if you guys notice, I usually get my seeds from professional sources. This year, I was barely able to get into Home Depot and buy these. I mean, I had to justify my presence. So these are cherry bell radishes. It's one of the first varieties I've ever grown. And it's a really cool radish, really standard. It's tasty. It doesn't have any cracking resistance of any sort, or it's really a standard seed. I think it's an heirloom actually, I'm not even sure, but it's been around forever. So let's just open this packet. Now the seeds are really small, they're radish, so if you guys look there, these small little round seeds there. So we're just gonna go ahead and put the packet aside. And you know, as simple as it sounds, or as you may think it is, it's pretty much what it is. So we're going to put one seed down the middle of each cell. Now, if you notice the medium is a bit dry, do not worry about that. We're going to sprinkle a little bit more on top once we're finished seeding this tray. And we're going to give it some water to get the whole process started. So 50 radishes in there, and we're going to take them all the way to maturity. Now, it doesn't have much value commercially for me as a farmer. I mean, I don't think I would grow my root crops like this on a large scale, but it goes to show you what's possible with plants and how adaptable they are. So you can pretty much give them all kinds of conditions, and if you actually meet their basic requirements, then they're going to grow. So that's why people are in disbelief when they come on my farm and they check out these frame systems and these vertical systems and the large crops we have growing in such shallow containers. But shallow containers use less resources, which can then be deployed on a larger scale, and in order to get more results, more yield out of the same dollar spent or the same energy invested. So we've got 40 seeds in. I'm gonna put the last 10 in here. So we've got 50 radishes. Now, if you notice, I've put a single seed in each cell. I'm a big fan of, one, not having to thin out, two, saving seed. So of course, if you look at all the seed packets and all these seed, the bulbs you buy and the sets and whatnot, if you look at their instructions, they always tell you plant 4 every inch, then thin them out. Well, you know what? That's a trick to get you to buy more seed and more sets. Normally, germination rates for known crops are usually known and they're pretty stable. So if my packets usually say, I buy from Johnny Seeds normally. Johnny Seeds will give me a germination rate and a date where the crop was actually planted for germination as a test. If it says 94%, I'm not going to use twice the number of seeds just to make sure that these 6 out of 100 are filled. So what I'll do is I'll just plant 100 seeds, sorry, and whatever 6 don't come up, we'll either replant afterwards or just skip altogether. So it's really a commercial trick that they use. I'm going to cut the video here. I'm going to be right back in the next sequence where I'm going to have the other plug tray and the other little containers filled, and we're going to go ahead and plant the carrots. We're going to plant beets. We're going to plant parsnips. So stay right back. Okay, so we're back. Our other containers are full. They're ready to grow, fertilized, and the rest. Beets. You guys love beetroot. Super easy to grow crop. I mean, if you put the right fertilizer in, these seeds are pretty large. I mean, look at these little cluster bombs. So one thing that's special about beetroot seed is it's not actually a seed, but it's a cluster of seeds. So these guys, even if you plant 1 per cell, you will have to thin them out. So I'll show you guys that in the updates and follow-ups to this video. We're gonna keep coming back to these 2 trays that I'm doing, and we're gonna watch the evolution together. And I'm going to show you guys when's the right moment to thin them. So don't worry about any of this. This series is going to be a couple of videos long, and you guys can really follow along. So simple as it sounds, take these little these little seeds, sorry. Now the beets we're going to put in these containers here. So again, just slightly press it. If you see that tiny depression, normally a seed should be planted at about twice its diameter in depth. So it's an approximation. But what we're trying to avoid is really the seed having to struggle too much to actually germinate and break the soil line. So we're going to put 6 seeds there. So we got 4 there, 5. That's going to be 6 right down the middle. All right. We're going to put that right back in the packet. We're going to grab our carrots. I actually brought out this little packet of carrots, which are Paris carrots. Really appreciated by chefs. However, they are small little round balls. So, but you know what? We're not going to plant those in the plug tray because I don't have much space, and it's pretty self-explanatory, easy to understand. They're going to work. We're going to do this in the rain gutters a little later. So if you guys stay tuned and keep checking out what's going on my channel, I'm going to plant carrots in rain gutters this season. So I have done that before, so it's not a test. It is going to work. So if you guys want to do that, just keep checking what's going on the channel. We'll get to that at some point. Instead, we're going to grow for some more difficult carrots. So we're going to have Amsterdam, and we're going to have Autumn King. So one long root, one shorter, stubbier root. Normally, by the way, longer roots grow in loose soil. Stubby, short carrots, which are a little fatter than long, are going to be better for more compact soil. Either way, we don't have that problem here, but we're still going to plant them for the sake of diversity. So I'm going to put some seed in there. Carrot seed is super small. For those, it's acceptable to put a little sprinkle on top and then thin them out. So it's always a matter of effort versus results. So I still try not to put too much. So I have 2 seeds there. So I'm going to put 3 seeds per cell. Yeah, I do count them. So I know you're going to tell me carrot seed is cheap, but that's it. Thinning is expensive. So I try to not create too much thinning. And for that last container here, we're going to do something really cool. I'm actually going to put one. We're going to plan out to grow 1 carrot in each corner of the container. So we're going to push that even further. So I told you guys 1 root per container. Let's make it 4 roots in a single container. Okay, so for these carrots, that's it. I'm going to put whatever's left in the seed packet because we're going to need to plant all of these, by the way. Everything is getting planted this year. Now, I'm going to take the Amsterdam carrot, which is the longer one. So we're going to finish that quickly. Once these are planted, we're going to plant 2 of our little solo cups using parsnip seed, and then I'll show you guys how to actually water this. The cool part. So 3 seeds in each one of those containers. So 3. All right, 3 seeds in this guy. And now we're going to put that back in. Plant 2 parsnips. Obviously, this is a sample pack that I'm growing, so just to show you guys the different possibilities. I did not find my onion seed. I thought I had some. I've planted all the sets in the front of the property already. But beetroot, onion, I mean, you guys can pretty much imagine that if it's going to work with the beetroot, it's going to work with the onions as well. Last seed, we're going to plant 2 containers with parsnip. It's my first time planting parsnip, by the way. I've never ever planted it, so that may be a good indicator to you guys that once you have some experience gardening, even if you haven't planted something before, you're going to be successful. So that's me being super confident. If it fails in a miserable way, I'll have to find a new speech around this, but no, I don't think it will. So the seed of parsnip, again, we're going to put 2 per cell, or 2 per container. So 1, 2, and then 1, 2, and that's it. Okay, so all of our containers are seeded. If it's a little windy when you're seeding out, by the way, you can just push down a little bit just so that the seeds actually embed in the soil. So you don't have like all this work that you've done and then the wind just comes and blows it away in a second. So that's it. Our seed is all done. One thing that's important is to stay organized. So it's easy to just scatter things around and then you can't find what goes where. Put your seeds back in their packets as soon as you're finished with them. So that's going to be beet. Again, good habits and being organized is the first thing you must do if you want to have success in farming or gardening, like anything else in life. So let's just put this guy back in. All right, now I'm going to put that aside quickly, and I'm going to show you guys the really cool part. We did a little bit of prep work, but now is the moment where it pays off. So I just put that here. I'm just going to pull the table a little bit so you guys can see the trays better. And my second tray is right there. So now, of course, it's going to be super complicated to water this. If we didn't have the no drip tray underneath. But what the no drip tray allows us to do is just grab our watering can. We're going to remove this this little tip here, and we're just going to fill the tray with water. And what's going to happen is, because these trays do not drip, it's going to basically pull up. If you guys can see, I'm just going to remove this here. You guys see the water in there. So there's about a little less than an inch of water. In the case of a dry medium like this, it's going to soak a lot, so I'm going to fill it all the way up. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other tray. All right, so both my trays have water at the bottom. Now they all have drainage holes at the bottom. I haven't mentioned this before, but you need to make sure you have drainage holes in all of your growing containers. So now the plants are going to soak up water from the bottom, and it's going to go all the way up. The seed is going to soak. That's going to promote germination, and that's going to be our main method for watering our crops. So we will not have to worry about wetting each container and then trying not to disturb the seed, and then making sure it doesn't dry out, and making all this labor intensive stuff. So we're just gonna fill out our trays at the bottom whenever they're dry, let the medium soak it up, and that's it. Let it do the work on its own. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel. My name is Khaled. They call me the Plant Charmer on Instagram. So I did this video for you guys because you seem to really enjoy that little trick. And being COVID-19, that'll give you something to do at home. So next video we're going to be shooting in a couple of days is going to be about starting your own seeds in trays. I have one already on the channel, sorry, but I want to make a more comprehensive one, an updated one, better quality one for you guys. So until then, stay safe, stay green, and stay growing.